Okay, now this was an episode I did not see coming. I mean, know for a fact that some changes are changes, but was this really necessary? Well, it did bring out the badass meant in a way in the finale. Either way, in last week we saw that Gajeel from This is a Fairy Tale episode, and we saw that Gajeel was saved by Levi by giving a underwater kiss. But that only saved him. It didn't save the situation. So he tries to make Levi give him more. Of course, she can't. The thing is, though, he doesn't mean a kiss, underwater kiss. He means her magic. Actually, it's pretty justifiable. Levi forgot to use her magic because her magic's solid script can create anything and can even create air if she so please. The thing is, though, she was just panicking, so there was no way she could have predicted this. Ha 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 ha. But it's still so cute watching her face, realizing that embarrassment. But even with giving a normal amount of air to Gajeel and to the others, Gajeel still cannot win the fight. As the music turns into solemn, we see a little bit glimpse of his past. Uh, uh, where it turns out that when Gajeel was in Phantom, he regularly got out in trouble with the uh, council. Especially one Elder Beleno was the only one who showed him sympathy and kindness. But Gajeel, who was kind of a jerk back then, uh, uh, kind of always ignored her advice and talked trash to her. But Buleno always said, "I'm not telling you to live on certain, but I found a way to live that is meaning." Causing destruction to fairy tale was his meaning back then. But back in fairy tale, uh, uh, but fairy tale, he began to have a change of heart, as we know, but he couldn't say that to old Elder Blueno even back then. However, Blueno was one of those council members killed by Tartarus, and when he saw that, Gajeel retreated to the roof, where he actually, for the one of the first time, began to shed tears, even though not crying rivers, a single tear and wetty fingers, or wetty eyes, I mean, begins to cloud him as he blames himself for never having to thank her for everything she did to him. And here the music really turns solemn and beautiful. I mean, of course, I didn't cry this time, but you have to admit this situation really create the atmosphere with the music. So I approve. But as Gajeel remembers her words about finding a way to give meaning, he also wants revenge. He also then remembers that Lueno one time took sympathy on Gajeel because he looked like her deceased son. With newfound resolve, Gajeel breaks free of a grip that Tora Fossor has engulfed in him, and absorbs the carbon inside of the devil's seed. Because it turns out that Tenchi Kame consists of carbon, and carbon combined with iron creates steel. The animation gets a little crappy here, but what's not so crappy is that Gajeel evolves. He becomes no longer an iron slayer, but a steel dragon slayer. Or maybe this is just a one-time thing, but for this time, he is iron becomes steel. As he gives the bond liner, "Don't forget my song, Salamander," Gajeel unfortunately collapses, although there's still one left. And then the most unlikely savior comes. It's Laxas. Yeah, I know. Shouldn't he be? He shouldn't even be standing right now. Moreover, we're talking about the. This is the anime version and all. And even though Tora Fossar had some bad memory, he do remember Laxas. And Laxas just seeing that for the second time, in his words, he has forgotten to protect his family. He clashes against Turafusur, but doesn't really necessarily fight him back, but merely blocks his attacks. It's then it turned out that even though Luxus is a badass, he has his limits with one thing. Or maybe this what makes him the badass. Although, again, I'm not necessarily sure it was wise for the anime to just change into this kind of scene. But that was apparently that Laxus is still fighting, even with anti-particles in his body. So in a way, I think they're trying to show that Laxus is the iron will of determination. That he cannot really fight back, but he can defend against Torafusor, even with anti-magic particles in his body. And or maybe the fact that he can fight back, it's just that he cannot be allowed to be hurt because his body consists so much of hurt. In one clash, Torafusor managed to floor him with just one punch, but Laxus is not down for the count yet. He vows to defeat him. Will he be able to do it though? That's the real question. But yeah, that's basically this one. I gotta say, the music when Gajeel cried and the music when he breaks free of the water, oh man, that was almost too awesome to be true. Too awesome. But what? But the filler with Alexis, was that really necessary? I mean, it was good to make Alexis even more badass, but still, gave some unexplained moments. But I'll save that for the next week, so give me your thoughts if you have any.